Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to a very special episode of What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Scott Botman, and with me are two guys who don't get to do the cool digital intros because, look at this, we're all recording in person at the same place at the same time. Big thanks to our friend Ryan Sutton for letting us use his studio here at work in Anderson County, Tennessee. At an undisclosed location, because I'm not sure that we actually have permission to do this, but that's how we roll. We're rebels, or maybe criminals, which is more in keeping with the whole theme for this episode of the podcast, because we're here tonight to talk about the first two episodes of Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord, the latest animated Star Wars show on Disney Plus. But first, let's get caught up with the crew, because we haven't actually recorded face-to-face or digitally or at all in any way in like a whole month, because real life has been lifing, y'all. It's been lifing. So guys, we're actually up here in Tennessee playing Star Trek cards, but otherwise, how's everybody doing? Derek, how's it going?
Going good, just like you said. Yeah, I mean, we just go from, crazy to think it's already in April.
Yep.
The big thing coming out next month, which is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which we're all excited for.
I thought you meant my birthday.
Well, that too just coincides together,
yes,
right?
The Mandalorian and Grogu coming
and we'll
out.
be together for that.
We will, and I'm so excited. Longtime listeners of the show will know that the one major complaint that I have had about Disney-era Star Wars is that for decades, George Lucas and I had an agreement. He gives me new Star Wars movies for my birthday in May. And then that J.J. Abrams guy was like, hey, what do y'all think about Christmas? And I'm like, no, I get way more presents at Christmas than I do at my birthday. I want new Star Wars in May. Star Wars is a summertime movie. But, he didn't listen to me. So
that's the primary reason that I'm not as big of a fan of the J.J. Abrams movies.
Yes, totally.
It has nothing to do with anything else about the movies themselves.
Not at all.
It's the
well,
fact
anyway, Nathan, how are you doing as my original Wookiee co-pilot over there? And our very own Dave Filoni. So he's really excited about having more Dave Filoni stuff happening.
Very, very much excited about that. I noticed y'all are wearing the wrong shirts.
We are.
You were in the mood for today playing Star Trek.
My bad.
Technically, you wore the wrong shirt to begin with.
I wore the wrong shirt for Star Trek, but the right shirt for this.
Yes.
And also to go to Buc-ee's, because there was one on the way here.
But you didn't.
But I didn't go to Buc-ee's because I got up super early to get here and did not have time to stop at the Buc-ee's.
But alone amongst many Star Trek tournaments over the past few decades, Nathan was not late to today's Star Trek
that is true.
tournament. So good job. Good job. Yes.
But
thank you, studio audience.
Yes, but he still had to cut his deck like last night.
Yeah, he did.
That is true. I finished sleeving the deck at about 12:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then went to bed and got up at about 4:45 to leave my house at about 5:30 to get here.
Yeah.
So I am not totally awake right now.
Especially because we just ate a big Italian meal too.
Yeah, that's true too. So anything I say incorrect about Maul is due to my tiredness and the fact that I just ate, not that I would get anything wrong.
But also a big shout out for our listeners to be aware of that we are sitting with a winner and a champion. As Scott did place first, he went 4-0 in today's tournament for Star Trek. So again, we have a lot of people that do enjoy both Star Wars and Star Trek, and we do both play, or I should say we all play Star Trek CCG, but us three also do play the Star Wars CCG occasionally as well too. So,
and we did give Star Wars Unlimited a try. Y'all may remember a few episodes last year of the podcast. We talked a lot about Star Wars Unlimited card game, and it was pretty good, but just not enough flavor really. Other cards wise, I'm really looking forward to Magic the Gathering is actually going to do a Star Trek set as part of their crazy Worlds Beyond, Universes Beyond, other intellectual properties, which to me just increases the chances that some year in the future, perhaps even 2027, for a very special anniversary, Magic may do a Star Wars set. Because when the first Star Wars movie turns 50 next year, I could see Magic doing a Star Wars crossover.
Well, and they just did the Marvel stuff too, so they've already got a license with Disney, so they're good. So
Doctor Who, we've got lots of sci-fi already happening, and Star Trek comes out this November. So for Magic the Gathering.
Yep. And they just did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well, which doesn't have anything to do with Disney, but
But I would still say that
amazing.
Ninja Turtles classifies as science fiction, especially
that is
Dimension
true.
X, Krang, all that stuff. They're
the
aliens.
ooze, yeah.
The technology.
I thought it was based off a real life documentary.
Oh no! I mean, of course it is, Derek. Of course it is. Anyway,
It's real to me. Dang it.
Speaking of animated shows, let's talk about Maul Shadow Lord. Nathan, as our very own Dave Filoni, the guy who was mistaken for Dave Filoni at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago more than once. Go ahead and kick it off for us with your basic overall take as to how you feel about this new Star Wars animated show with a really old Star Wars animated character in the form of Maul himself.
Yeah, and at this point, I would classify Maul as an animated character primarily.
Yeah.
Because he did originate in The Phantom Menace, but he has been in.
He's
Clone
27
Wars.
years old.
He's been in Rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been
So
a cartoon way more often than he's been live action.
He has, to the point where I would consider Sam Witwer to be the Maul actor more
Yeah.
so than Ray Park.
Yeah.
Nothing against Ray Park. He did a great job with the physicality
Yeah.
in episode 1. But he didn't actually even do the voice then, much less in the cartoons. And Sam Witwer is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible at it, but he's also a huge Star Wars nerd. There is actually a story of a time when he corrected Dave Filoni about a point of order. They were going to have Anakin introduce Padme to his mother, to like the Force ghost of his mother, and Sam Witwer said, "Excuse me, they already met in episode 1. They had dinner together." So just amazing knowledge of Star Wars there. As for this animation itself, I greatly enjoyed it. We knew that Maul was going to be taking over a crime syndicate. That's kind of his MO at this point in time. And we got to see him actually do the thing and be an active participant. And when he first stepped out and the Duel of the Fates hit, that was incredible. Now, I'm not sure exactly where we're going from here. And I don't know how much information we have about where we're going from here based on just these 2 episodes. So I don't know how much I can speak to that. But for the first 2 episodes, I'm very excited.
Great, awesome. So we'll do what's called a compliment sandwich because Derek's not really on board. So Nathan was hype. Derek is going to be less so, and then I'm going to try to keep it even keel with the other half of the sandwich. So Derek, what are your overall thoughts so far about the series?
So most of the listeners for a long time know that I am a big, I'm a big proponent of new Star Wars.
Yeah.
I like new Star Wars. I may not like the sequel trilogy, but again, without the sequel trilogy, we wouldn't get all the great things that I love, like Rogue One and Andor and Rebels, Clone Wars Season 7, a lot of the great stuff. So I'm very, very fine with that. But as most of you know, that I'm tired of the same thing over and over again. And to the point, Maul is 27 years old. Maul was brought in, was a character that didn't have anything, was supposed to be dead. And granted, Filoni has done a lot with him. But at the end of the day, what happens in Rebels? He gets killed, right? Obviously, prior to what kicks off in happening in our, technically, episode 4 or the first of Star Wars and everything else. But as usual, when that happens, I would like something new if you're going to reuse these same characters. I get Filoni's now in charge. So again, congratulations to Dave for, being co-president of Lucasfilm. But if you're going to give me Ahsoka and Maul nonstop at this point, because that's I feel like that's all he pushes on us anymore is his 2 original not really Maul's original, but what he's done with them and pushing these 2 characters. I want something fresh. I want something new with them. And right now, actually, to be fair, with both of them, we're not, because really with Ahsoka, we're getting Heir to the Empire, which I am, again, very happy with. So that's finally coming to light with that and bringing that. But with Maul, as we were discussing prior to this, and like I said, Scott, we were talking about yesterday evening before Nathan joined us, it's almost the same thing that we've gotten over the years. It's not as much fresh. So again, you have Maul going after a young child trying to persuade, just like we have with Ezra. We have some of the other things in the tropes of the world of Dave Filoni and stuff like that. And it's like you only get two types of young teenage kids. It's like they're angst and angry at the world, and that's what we get with, Twi'lek girl Jedi and everything else. And again, I'll continue to say this: how many Jedi actually survived Order 66?
Right. Yes, as we have discussed a few times on the show
as a joke, but it's almost gotten to the point where it's not funny anymore.
Was not the 66th or directive to the clones. It was a list of 66 specific Jedi that I want you to kill right now. Yes. All the other Jedi can live. We'll deal with them later on.
So, but anyways, so like I said, so there's things in there, like I said, but to your point, but we're talking about like it's the criminal syndicate stuff like that, like the introduction of some of the behind or the whatever they would be, the one few Mandos, some of the other Dathomir characters and stuff like that. Maybe they're side characters. I don't know who Maul's second in command is and stuff like that. But if I'm going to sacrifice story for Twi'lek girl and her Jedi master and this cop that I don't really care about and all this stuff, then I could have really used the character of where she's at from his second command. I would have preferred story development of that. So again, it's only 2 episodes. So again, I will watch it. I'll give it, it could always start off slow and it could turn. I mean, there's some great action scenes. Yes, there was some great stuff with that. Again, animation's top notch. I think I enjoyed that. But I'm almost getting sick of the same spiel that Darth Maul does. Again, credit to Sam Witwer. It's a great live character he brings forth with all of his. It's a cartoon character he brings to life with his great acting and voice skill. But at the same time, I feel like, again, for the first 2 episodes, it's the same thing we have at this point that I haven't seen already. So.
Yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I definitely can see some of those same points. For me, I think I'm pretty even keel. I liked some stuff. I disliked some stuff. It's very much a situation where I feel like a lot of it reminds me of stuff that's already happened in Star Wars, and especially already happened in the Disney era Star Wars animation. But I don't mind that too much. I could tell an advancement in the technological level of the animation compared even to shows like The Bad Batch that just came on in the most recent years. And I liked seeing Maul do a lot of the same criminal syndicate stuff that he is famous for at this era. And I'm glad that we now definitively have the Empire exists during the series, and the Empire is happening and affecting the galaxy as a whole right now. So now we know definitively, Nathan, where this is happening in the timeline. So I feel like we can be fairly confident that we will not see Maul himself suffer, being killed in this series because he's got to live long enough to go through to Rebels and face Kenobi that one last time. But to me, that just means that all the other ancillary characters that aren't Maul are in eternal jeopardy because they could absolutely be the ones that bite the big one in these episodes. I would like to see us have more than we just have 8 episodes, right?
10.
10. Okay.
10, yeah.
But I'd still like to see more than 10. We've discussed recently a lot about how streaming series do not have enough time to really do a lot of character development, to really do anything to make the characters stand out to you of ones that you don't already know, like Maul himself. And in fact, that's pretty much everybody else in this show so far. None of these other characters are known from previous Star Wars animation or movies or any stories like that. Which I think is a bit of a detriment to the show right now, because I don't know that in 10 episodes, now we've got 8 more to go, that they're going to have a lot of time to really build on these characters and make them interesting enough for me to become a fan of them. I love the Mandalorian girl that is Maul's basically second in command, but if I didn't turn on the closed captioning, I wouldn't know what her name was yet. Same with several of the other major characters in the show. I know Lawson's name, who is the police officer dude, because other characters did take the time to call him by his last name. I don't know that I would know his first name, except that Nathan had looked it up previously. Yeah, it's Brander, but did they say that in the show? I don't think so.
I'm not sure they did. I know they mentioned Two Boots' name.
Yes. So the droid is cool, a great little droid bon mot name like we often have with, R2 and Chopper and that kind of thing.
Yeah, which he may actually survive, and we may see him. We may have already seen him again. Mm-hmm. theoretically, because he was voiced by Richard Ayoade, who also voiced one of the droids in The Mandalorian when they stormed the prison shuttle. So they're both droids.
Could be the same. Could
Be the same droid, just rebranded. Could be that they have a Richard Ayoade voice module that they just
like a GPS
stick to different.
I'm gonna type in what we want him to say.
It's like C-3PO. He speaks 6 billion languages. Clearly, 8-year-old Anakin Skywalker didn't program him with that many languages. No. He found a module that he put in. So. More likely that, but I did think it was cool that we got Richard Ayoade voicing a droid again,
and I did love the action. As Derek had mentioned, there are a lot of good action sequences in the show already, and I get a big time Solo, a Star Wars story vibe from it, with the industrialized, almost noir type alien planet. Or if you play Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, it had a real vibe of Nal Hutta or that kind of neon drenched nightclub planet.
Where, the underworld of Coruscant.
Yes, the
deal.
underworld. Yeah, 1313, that kind of thing. So I did like that atmosphere of it. So we'll have to wait and see.
Although we're not actually on Coruscant.
No, we're not.
Which
is great.
On a different planet known as Janix.
Yes.
But it is it's part of the Empire, though.
It is part of the Empire. But I get the feeling it's not quite as central.
Yeah, it's at the very least mid-rim, if not the beginning of the outer rim. Yeah. All right, well, we'll go ahead and do our traditional arrangement of analyzing episodes with our 3 questions. But of course, as you can all tell, since we're at this studio, we don't have our computers in front of us, so the guys don't know what questions 4 and 5 will be. And guess what? Neither do I. I'm going to spitball it. Screw it. We'll do it live.
You can always ask one in front of our live studio audience.
Yes, I may do that. I may let one of those studio audience pitch out a question. So stay on your toes, guys. All right, but let's go ahead and start with question number 1. Derek, I'll let you go first because this is going to be the hardest one for you to answer.
No,
what did you like best about these 2 episodes?
I kind of covered. I mean, obviously, yes, Richard Ayoade as a voice. I love him as a dry, sarcastic British humor. We're talking about the It crowd, right? I love him with Mighty Boosh and all that stuff. So it's always great to have his presence and just his dry delivery, even as a typical droid. That's a smart aleck droid, right?
Yep.
So that was great. But my favorite scene or my favorite part of it was actually the syndicate part. Right, it was actually dealing with what we were going on. Right, so obviously Maul is looking at seeking revenge with several people that betrayed him. As you know, from prior dealings with the Pikes and the cartels and everything like that. So that was great. And that was, the things that I wanted. Like I said, the stuff that I felt new, right? Because we obviously had at the end of Solo, right? How we have, Black Sun and everything else. And Crimson Dawn and where the involvement was and how do we get from Clone Wars stuff to Rebels, right? And like I said, everything in between. So that was good. I had no problem with it. There was some, like I said, great action. And that's what I was hoping we would get, right? That it was just going to be that kind of Solo feel, or Andor feel, where you don't need necessarily Jedi to do anything. No, I'm fine with Maul being what he was, being a Force user, right? Because obviously Maul's a big bad, but you didn't need anybody else to do it. That's why I wasn't happy that they brought more Jedi in and stuff like that. I guess in theory, because who's gonna oppose Darth Maul? But that was the whole point of how he got into power. Nobody could oppose him, right? And so I really like that part of the story in the scenes that we did get a little bit of development with that. But to your point, right? Like really, that was probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes out of the full 55 minutes, not even, right? Because you have credits and everything else that rolls into it of what we got. So maybe a quarter of the show so far is what I really want, which is the syndicate stuff. So,
all right, for me, the part I liked best about these 2 episodes is during the chase scene when the bridge is cracking and our young Padawan girl's old master uses the Force to bring the bridge back together and save all those people. I always love seeing Jedi use the Force as basically a reverse natural disaster. It's a eucatastrophe. So the outside force comes and saves people with, supernatural ability. And I love that David Harwood, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is the voice of the old Jedi Master. He's of course most famous to me for being the president on 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's great to hear him kind of sort of taking over for the late Keith David as being the mentor, older black guy, voice artist guy that has doing stuff for voice artist in Star Wars animation. Nathan, you're checking.
So yes, it is Dennis Haysbert.
Sorry, Dennis Haysbert. Thank you very much.
And that is Master. I could not pronounce this if I were not looking at it.
I thought you were going to do it. You said it before.
Master Ego Diodaki.
Yes, Master Daki.
Daki.
So yeah, I'm going to go with Master Daki because I don't need to say his whole name. But yeah, it's cool to see not only him using the Force to save people, great stuff, eucatastrophe, like I said, but also an alien, a really, really alien, a very xenomorphic or xeno alien Jedi Master. I love seeing Jedi Masters that are weird species. Like, it's cool to see Obi-Wan and Mace Windu and guys like that. But and then of course Yoda. But I also love seeing people like Evan Peel and Ki-Adi-Mundi. And this dude is very much in keeping with that long storied tradition of being a Jedi Master who is really weird. So that's cool. So that was my favorite part about both across both episodes. Nathan, what was your favorite part across these episodes?
I think my favorite part is seeing Maul as a puppet master, as the guy pulling the strings, because that's something that we normally associate with Darth Sidious. Mm-hmm. It's a very Sith trait. We see Darth Tyrannus and Darth Vader do this as well, when they very often will tell people the truth, but from a certain point of view.
Yes.
That makes them want to join. Like Darth Tyrannus literally told Obi-Wan that there was a Sith master in charge of the Senate, but did so in such a way that Obi-Wan absolutely thought, well, there's no way that's true.
He dismissed it out of hand.
The last place we'll ever check is that guy. So it is very much a Sith trait to be the mastermind, but we don't usually see that from Maul, and we did here. He was able to manipulate two different criminal syndicates to think that one of them had attacked the other, to think that he's out to get revenge. I'm not convinced that he is. I don't know that he's necessarily out to get revenge on the people who crossed him. I think he's after something bigger and is using the fear, because fear is his ally, because Sith. Even though he's not part of the Sith Order anymore, he still operates under those premises. He's using their fear to get to something bigger that he wants.
That's a good idea. I like that. I like that theory. All right, so let's go ahead and do question number 2. I'll kick it off. What did you like least about these 2 episodes? For me, the thing I liked least was, like I said, we didn't get a whole lot of background about what Maul has been up to. Where was he just being before he came to this planet to start trying to get revenge on those who double-crossed him? Was he in prison? Has he broken out of somewhere? If this was covered in the first 2 episodes, I missed it. And I also didn't like that we didn't get as much information about his second-in-command and the rest of his crew. There are 2 more Zabrak guys that are fighting alongside him that I don't know who they are.
I looked up. One of them's actually voiced by Stephen Bloom, who voices Zeb.
Yeah. So I'd like to know, their names, although I did get to see their names because I turned on the closed captioning. But if I had not done that, I wouldn't know their names. And 2, I mean, there are other Zambrakians with tattoos on their faces and all. I want to know more about these guys. Can they use the Force, or are they just all about the blasters? I mean, in these first 2 episodes, they're just blasting stuff, which is great. That's cool. I like me some Star Wars heavies with, repeater blaster rifles and whatnot. Neat stuff. But they look like they could have a lot more going on, so I wanted to find out more about them. And I always love seeing a cool Mandalorian girl, especially with the darker hair and the kind of modified space goth chick. I'm like, ooh, who is this girl? And where can I buy her action figure? So anyway, I want more information. That's what I disliked the most about these 2 episodes is tell me more about the people who aren't Maul, because I know a bunch about Maul. Derek, what did you dislike most about these 2 episodes?
So there was just 2 things that I just didn't like, period, right? and it's again not like I hated him or anything, but the first one was Maul Sith droid, which felt like it was a cheat code.
The little spy bot.
Yeah, because I mean, he literally was able to hit these, Batman Dark Knight, like whatever things through like the pigeonhole and everything that was able to randomly short circuit stuff. He had like the wiring harness that shut down the cop cars chasing them. He hacked into the Pike's mainframe system on a computer, and he was obviously hacking into the police station essentially, which is like, what else do you need? Now, granted, is he the counter or R2D2, right? Like, R2 got all that stuff, right? But it's like, what else do you need? Right? You don't even need the henchman. Like, he could just foil everything, right?
Totally. You don't need those heavies.
Like how does he not how does he not like take over Palp's ship or Sidious's ship and crash it somewhere? Like, it was almost too easy, too much plot armor on that one. Yeah. So that was the first one. The second one was again the way the police are handling the situation. I'm sorry, okay. First of all, I get it. They're like, we don't want the Empire here. But second of all, like, aren't they part of the Empire, right? Like,
definitely.
That doesn't mean they like the Empire.
Right.
I get that. So, understand that. But okay. But you literally just had Darth Maul break into it, kill a bunch of robots, kill a bunch of the cops, right? Have prisoners escape. His boss comes in and says, I had to talk to the governor and blah, 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 and all this stuff. It's like, what do you mean? You think having Maul there or the Sith, a saber user, as he called them or whatever, would be and failing to capture him, and then City of Palp finds out later that you failed? Or would you rather have the Empire come, be in your way for 6 months and get rid of him and deal with that, right?
Lawson literally said, whoa, a laser sword.
Yeah.
So it's like the classic moment of, I've heard about these.
Which doesn't make sense because it's not that far along that there was thousands of Jedi roaming around.
Yeah, but still, as we heard in the Clone Wars series too, as well, there's people that went their whole lives that never saw a Jedi.
Yes.
They never saw a lightsaber. So that's why, he doesn't even know the proper name for it.
But anyways, but what I disliked about it though, like I said, that even after all that, and which this was the one thing I wasn't sure because again, was it because she called him a governor, the guy who runs it. The governor would be an imperial signed person. Yeah. Yes. So why wouldn't he want the Empire there? Like, what would he have to not have the Empire there?
See, I feel like Lawson might have latent anti-imperial feelings. Like, he might be one of these people that's like, I much prefer to live in the Republic, and so now he's all, I much prefer to manage my own affairs.
Which I get that, but I said, but his boss comes in and says the governor had to pull. Like, so if the governor knows about the situation that they had this thing and that happened and all this stuff, like, why wouldn't he, as being an imperialist, have the Empire be like, Empire, we need help here?
Because he doesn't know what the situation is. He has no idea who Maul is.
But why wouldn't he? Because the captain lady or whoever it is told him.
She knows that he's a criminal. I don't think she knows that.
But they know that because they did the face markings, and he knows that.
But that was a little bit later than.
But even then, what they find out is that the ISB really wants this guy, and that's it. That's literally the only information.
Yeah, but then at that point, the governor would be again, if the ISB wants him. Like, why, I would rather have the Empire there for 6 months to a year, whatever, got to deal with all the bureaucratic crap and everything else, than failing to capture the dude and find out the Empire finds out that I didn't do that, then you're dead.
Well, but he doesn't know that he's going to fail to capture the dude.
Well,
and we
he's already failed at a marriage. Who
wants a portrait coming in and messing everything up?
Because he's
just a failure over and over and over. Well, to your point, Two Boots is like from the get-go is like, we need to call
which also pissed me off. I'm like, how again, I understand droids and stuff, but as a droid cop, like, how does it go against his protocol to not escalate, especially after
he's got to obey. I'm sure he's got to obey the human. The biological agent there overrides him all the time.
And droids in Star Wars are pretty much sentient. They don't follow programming.
Yeah, but to your point, maybe in the very next episode we're going to see the Empire shows up anyway.
Well, so say and the last thing that, like I said, about the prison break that upset me was Maul literally hacks and slash everyone's, but conveniently just Bucks Lawson and does not decide to slice him afterwards.
Yeah.
Out of all the other humans and androids that he does, conveniently picks the one guy not to do.
Over the years, we've seen Maul be
This is it. It's just
capricious.
It's plot armor.
It's the right.
So.
Of course, yes, that. But Maul is also
anyways.
like always doing his own thing.
But you're thinking about it in reverse. It's not that he happened to not kill the one guy that we're following. The reason we're following that one guy is because he's the guy who happened to not get killed.
And listen,
but again, why wasn't he? Because again,
if the Force wants you to live, you're going to live.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's just like, conveniently.
Well, it's only convenient because we're following that guy in the story. But the only reason we're following him is because
if you look at it that way, yes. But we'd also be seeing it from Maul's side.
Well, from Maul's
and
side,
from the
I
girl's
happen
side.
to not kill one dude. That's just one dude. I don't care about him.
Yeah.
We care about him because he's the main character of the show, but he's only the main character of the show
because it's got his title card.
because he didn't get killed.
Yeah. All right, Nathan,
All right,
what
so-
did you
so what
dislike
did-
about
what
these
did I
first two episodes?
Dislike the most. I'd have to say the thing I dislike the most is there's a little bit of question about when exactly this show happens.
Yeah.
We know roughly when it happens. We can figure out from where Maul is at certain points in the timeline that it has to fall between such and such date and such date. But we have no idea where in that date. And that's just kind of left open. And I'm hoping that at some point in a future episode, we get a clearer, it is such and such time. But they can't really just put a year like they can with The Mandalorian, because in The Mandalorian, it's this many years after the Battle of Yavin.
Right.
It's really hard for them to say, yes, it's 5 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Right.
Well, we would know
the battle of what now?
We know it would have to be before Solo, though.
Yeah. Because it looks like
he's
Maul,
he's not the leader of Crimson
he's
Dawn.
not yet in charge of Crimson Dawn.
So it would have to be before Solo.
To the best of our knowledge, he's not, but he could be.
I mean, you could, but I don't think he'd be doing what he did if he was in charge of Crimson Dawn.
It feels like he's headed toward
this is the
establishing
story of
that
how he
again.
becomes the leader of Crimson Dawn. We think that's what
I think that's what
Yeah.
it is. So I do think it's sometime before Solo, but I have no idea if it's like 10 minutes before Solo.
Well, technically
It's
doesn't
from 10 minutes ago.
But technically, we know from Kira is raised through the Crimson Dawn.
Yes.
For many years while Solo is in that. And we know Kira's supposed to show up in this, isn't she? She's supposed to make her cameo.
I've heard that a rumor that there will be a Kira cameo.
I don't know for sure.
Okay, so anyways, rumors. So anyways, at this point, this is her development into Crimson Dawn with Maul and how he molds her into it. So it's got to be pretty close at some point to when Solo first happens.
Yeah.
Because then that's when they're young and
Right.
they get that and they get separated. So I'd imagine it's 3 to 5 years post Revenge of the Sith is what I would guess.
Okay. How much after Revenge of the Sith is Solo?
Great question.
Is there? I don't think there's like a timestamp on.
I don't think there is either.
Yeah, but I mean, we would know that the Empire had been in for several years at that point. They've been established. I mean, because to be fair, I mean they basically just took over what the Republic was and then just flipped it all to Empire propaganda. But
Yeah.
anyways,
so that's kind of thing we can figure out from certain things. Like this has to be after season 7 of Clone Wars. It's probably after Bad Batch. Because the Empire is a more known thing now. In Bad Batch,
Right.
It was like, oh yeah.
Would you say it's season 3 of Bad Batch or maybe season 2 of Bad Batch? 'Cause
I
there's a gap in between.
There is, yeah.
I think it's probably after all of Bad
All that?
Batch.
Okay.
But I don't know that for certain.
Yeah.
That's what you're feeling.
But it does feel more like the Empire has been a presence
Yeah.
in the galaxy for long enough that it's just like, oh yeah, that's the Empire, not that the Empire just came around a few years ago.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, at the end of Solo, because it had been a few years during that too. I mean, you have Memphis Nest and you have the starts of the rebellion and all that stuff, which would have been close to when we would have had Rebels, which would have been,
Right.
to your point, of the time frame we know of. So it's probably maybe in the early teen years, right?
yeah. Now, we do know that
18.
we are getting a second season of
Yes,
Maul.
it's already been confirmed to be renewed, so at least that's a plus. I'm not holding my breath to find out whether or not there'll be a season 3. And even if there is a season 3, it might take a while for it to come around.
That is true. Yeah. But we do know that we're getting a second season. So maybe they left it purposely vague.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know when they were making it, if they were going to get another season. And then they might have said, well, if we leave it vague, we can back into, well, it's actually this time.
Or who knows, next episode of Maul Shadow Lord, something could happen that like hard codes it directly onto this particular day of this particular month of this particular year.
To the point of something popping up on the screen precisely
35 seconds before the Tentative 4 breaks away from...
But if it's not in dialogue, they can do the before Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they did in Andor.
Well, I look at it this way though. We know Filoni from previous what he's done, other than season 7 of Clone Wars. Everything gets about 20 some episodes with what mostly he does.
When you add them all
together.
together.
Bad Batch was cut a little short. So I honestly think season 2 is really the second half of his story.
Probably.
And I think season 1 is one big arc because we know Filoni writes in arcs.
Yes.
So I think to your point, there'll be a time jump between 1 and 2, season 1 and 2, and they wanted to get something out, right? Because they could get this out, produced, done, and then we'll get something quickly while they're actually finishing up or making season 2 right now.
Which could mean that if we get a Kira cameo, it could be as like an almost after credits thing that is post time jump.
Yeah.
So it could still be before Kira escapes Corellia, and then at the tail end. By the way, next season we're going to cover this.
Yeah. Right. Or or younger Kira, but like you said, right after they get separated, and Maul finds her. He's like, "Oh, another child I can manipulate," and then that's where we get the time jump in season 2. A few years later, where now she's the trained assassin that she is now.
Yeah. But perhaps even I just lost Devon, who is the Twi'lek. I just lost this one.
There's another one.
New one.
New apprentice.
Let me teach you Terrace Kazi.
Yeah, every season there's another new apprentice for Maul.
Which, to be fair, is the same thing Sidious did.
That is true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at episode 3 and then look at episode 6, he's trying the exact same tactic. I've got my old apprentice.
Savage, he died.
Yeah.
I tried to recruit Ahsoka.
I've got the old apprentice. I've got the potential new apprentice. I'm just going to sit back and let you two fight, and whoever survives.
Yeah, survival of the fittest, baby.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest. Yeah. All right, let's move on to question number 3, which, of course, as always, is what connections did you draw between this episode or these 2 episodes and the rest of the Star Wars galaxy? And I'll go first here because I have a little small one that I thought was a lot of fun. The Pikes. The Pikes showed up, and Maul, once again, was all mad at him, and so he's fighting the Pikes, which continued to give me more Solo vibes because we saw the Pikes in Solo in live action. So that was pretty cool, and I enjoyed that the Pike Lieutenant, Sergeant, whatever we call them, the little, lesser in command, was essentially not afraid of Maul, which I thought was hilarious, because I'm like, at this point, you'd think that Maul's legend was so great that just seeing him would be terrifying for these underlings, but no, dude, man, was like, I work for the Pikes. I don't need to be afraid of you. And plus, I'm now going to rub your face in the fact that everything that used to belong to you, Maul, now belongs to the Pike boss, and he's in charge of all the stuff that you have and all the stuff that you lost. And you just know that if he was a little more logical, he'd realize that's going to piss off the guy who looks like the literal devil. So, of course, he made him pay for this, and I liked that. So I liked the whole vibe of the Pikes showing up as connecting it to not just Solo, but also the parts of the Clone Wars cartoon where Maul was in charge of the giant criminal syndicates, So I think that bodes well for the idea that at some point during Maul Shadow Lord as a series, he will be in charge of all that stuff again. And I think that will get us toward him being in charge of Crimson Dawn to the point that he was seen to be in charge of it at the end of Solo, in that basically after credits scene. It wasn't really an after credits scene in Solo, but it kind of served the same purpose as they do in Marvel movies. Nathan, what other connections did you see to the rest of the Star Wars
I've kind of
galaxy?
jumped the gun on this one because I've already given some of mine. Part of it is voice actors with Richard Ayoade and with Stephen Bloom. But that's a common thing in the voice acting world. Actors get to voice multiple characters. but it's always fun to see names that we recognize. All of the criminal syndicate people, we've seen versions of them before. Although the new ones, we did have a couple of new ones that we hadn't seen before that just presumably had been part of his previous criminal enterprise. So those were the main things. And of course we saw several aliens that we'd seen versions of before with Zabrex, Twi'leks, that sort of thing. Nothing really stood out as like a weird connection that's like, oh, this thing right here. None of them had me doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of.
Yeah. All right, Derek, what?
I was going to say, you didn't say D. Bradley Baker. He was a henchman.
I did not even realize that.
Yeah, he was one of the henchmen. It's just henchman number one.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, was he one of the Zabrak guys? But he was just henchman number one.
So I don't know. Was that a Gran?
Gran, yes.
One of the crime bosses was a Gran.
The crime boss was the Gran with the three eyeballs.
Yes.
So, which obviously you can't see. It's one of the card game. Yeah. Because I'm like, what was it called? I know it's a Jabba's palace. So.
Yeah, the classic Reese type alien.
Yeah. So because he was obviously very buff and big.
Yeah. Right. And maybe just a little bit overweight. Yeah. Very much got a kingpin vibe, which is in keeping with the organized crime atmosphere.
But there was also, which was funny because the other crime boss, Fish Dude, had the robotic metal suit body, which was like Grogu and IG-12.
Yeah, I did get that vibe, and I love that he would occasionally just jump out of it and run off.
Well, you shot a guy in the back and then shoots the guy, but he made him turn around. So he didn't shoot him in the back this time. But there was
the safest way though, isn't it?
I also got a bit of a Cobb Vanth attitude from Lawson. Because, he's a lawman out there on some colony world. Cobb Vanth was a little more like Old West Sheriff than this guy was more like, gumshoe, hard as leather, tough as nails, beat cop on some noir story. But even the facial expressions and structure and the hair really gave me a Cobb Vanth vibe. So that was pretty cool. I liked that idea.
And then the other connection was, again, Maul with the Mandalorians, right?
Yes.
So we obviously have with the second in command, which, again, is she former Death Watch?
I would assume so.
She almost looked kind of Clan Renish though too
she
at
did,
the time.
yes.
So or is she Saxon?
Yeah.
I
got a big time Saxon vibe from her, especially the pattern on her helmet and the pattern on her body armor.
Dark tone, colors. But it almost looked like it was graffiti too, like something that Sabine would do in the color scheme. Yep. So is it, some correlation there too?
Again, this is why I wanted more information about her.
Well, that's what I said. That's why I want more of that instead of,
Yeah, that's the reason, Scott.
Yes.
Well, yes. We all know Scott's
obviously.
heartthrob. So,
anyways, so I'm going to spitball question number 4, and then we are going to toss it to the studio audience for question 5. So start thinking, you guys. Question number 4. We talked a little bit about this before we hit record. Derek and I are somewhat convinced that the Jedi Padawan Twi'lek in question is going to turn out to be the new Millennium version of Darth Talon.
Dun dun dun.
Nathan thinks this is completely and totally off. So let's debate it. Reasons that I think it's going to be Darth Talon. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, which I know Favreau is not directly involved in Maul Shadow Lord, but he is tangentially involved. They love to take old school expanded universe characters like Grand Admiral Thrawn and so on and kind of sort of somehow find a way to reintroduce them into the current canon, even though the old EU is now no longer canon. And I think that this is the perfect opportunity to do that with Darth Talon because 2 reasons. One, obviously, she's a Twi'lek, and so having Maul have a Twi'lek apprentice makes sense with the old version of Darth Talon. And 2, they'd love to have new, strong female characters, which is great because Star Wars needs a few more of those. And we got a lot of good ones in the Acolyte, of course, but even beyond that, it's compelling for it to be a new female Force user villain because while we did have that in the Acolyte as well, outside of the Acolyte, all of your new female characters, even on like Andor, have almost exclusively been heroic. And even in the Kenobi show, where we had the Inquisitor girl, who was definitely evil to start with, she kind of like turned around and got redeemed, and she's not really a villain.
I mean, we've had a couple though. We've had Morgan Elsbeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we obviously had
She and
Shiv. No.
Shin Hati.
Ahsoka.
On Ahsoka.
Ahsoka as well too. So But then she's almost kind of like, is she really bad?
She's
though?
almost
She's
been
neutral, great Jedi. Great.
Well,
Jedi.
now I will say, we talked about Unlimited. They have shown previews of her card in Unlimited.
Shin Hati?
Yes, and she does have the villainous aspect.
Okay.
And those cards are approved by Lucasfilm.
Those are essentially canon.
Well, I mean, she does essentially fight the good guys, so that's where you could team her up, right?
That-
Because she's paid for, but yes.
That said, I do question some of their decisions on that because we have things like Wolf Yularen was neither heroic nor villainous, despite this being the ISB version of him.
Right.
So,
I mean,
it's not 100%.
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, to some level, Maul is both, though, because he's the anti-hero on some level.
He
because
is.
He
Yeah.
does fight Sidious in the stuff because he's out for revenge. Now, again, yes, he's technically fully villain. We all agree that.
Yes.
He's doing
Yes.
bad things.
I mean, look at his face. Come on. George Lucas is not subtle.
But he is also bad guy versus bad guy. You know what I'm saying? So, which, like I say, he plays that Venom role really well sometimes.
Yes,
So,
yes.
But anyways.
All right, so Derek, I gave my piece about why I think that this Jedi Padawan's going to become Darth Talon. Go ahead and give your piece, and then we'll let Nathan tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, so no, I mean...
120%.
Wow. That's a lot of wrong.
That is a lot. A very lot.
Yes, but one, it's hard to say too because we also know Filoni loves to throw red herrings.
He does, yes.
And Darth Talon.
Everybody remembers hearing the rumor that Plo Koon was going to show up in The Mandalorian.
Yes,
and that totally didn't happen.
It turned out to be Luke Skywalker.
It turned out to be Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
So who would the Twi'lek turn out to be that then would be not Darth Talon but the other then? Is there anybody else?
I think Nathan thinks that she's going to turn out to be dead.
Yeah, I do actually.
But but then at the same time though, when Maul does die, who takes over the Crimson Dawn?
I think they go into chaos, and that's why we
Well,
don't have them
or
around
would
in Return of
Darth
the Jedi.
Talon come in and take over that afterwards?
Yeah, see, that makes a lot of sense.
So because that would be the true apprentice. Because Kira's trying to do it. We know Kira would try to do what she needs to do as well too. So they could do something with her, but a Darth Talon to come in and say, "I'm going to take over what my master started."
And that gives us a big honkin' villain force for Mando and friends to oppose after the fall of the Empire.
Yes.
And plus, this would make it if there's a after credits or very end of scene in The Mandalorian and Grogu. Oh, excuse me, I didn't do it right. Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu. If we see that happen this summer, then we could have a moment at the end where Darth Talon shows up as a new bad guy for upcoming Mando stories.
Well, not just that, but then after Thrawn does fall, who's supposed to be the big bad villain against Rey if we get the new Rey movie? Because if Rey's a Jedi, nothing's going to stop her, except for maybe a Sith.
Yeah.
And that would be multiple things over, and she'd be an older Twi'lek at that point, but she could be a Sith master at that point.
Yeah, because Twi'leks do live longer than humans.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it could be long storytelling.
It's totally possible. Nathan, tell us why it's not going to happen.
All the reasons,
But
every
maybe we
reason
convince
under
him
the
at some
sun.
point. He's
Yeah.
like,
No,
"That's not a
yes,
bad
because that's
idea."
what happens. We change his mind on this show. That
yeah,
never
yeah,
happens.
Occasionally do.
So several problems with this. Number one,
right.
Maul, not Darth, formerly Darth.
Okay, all right, sure.
So even if she becomes Talon, she will not be Darth Talon.
All right.
At best, she could be Talon Card. No, that's a whole different character.
But
and
that could come introduced to
That would be awesome.
She does not look like Talon Card at all.
But having Talon Card be introduced during the show, I'm all for it. So
That would be hilarious.
Put that
We know
into
Mara
the
Jade's coming.
Yeah, exactly. Put that into the
she's not.
Filoniverse.
Well,
Mara
no.
Jade's
She's not.
No, there was
And
another article saying
she's
that
not.
that
people
apparently
keep wanting to use
well,
her.
apparently,
Lucasfilm keeps saying no.
Claudia Gray and Timothy Zahn have both asked for it, and they both have reported out. They both said no. Or Disney just simply says no.
When Tim asks and you just tell him one word answer, no, that means it's definitely not.
But he's asked
happening.
more than once though, which is great though. So I
Yeah,
appreciate his commitment.
good for him. I
Keep
respect
trying,
his
Tim.
determination.
But see now Filoni's in charge though.
I don't think it matters.
No.
I don't.
No.
Remember, George doesn't like her.
Right.
Well,
And I
that
know
is the problem.
George's opinion doesn't matter, quote unquote.
But that's
it still matters.
that's why
to
we'll
me.
get Darth Talon though. Because
It still matters to Dave. But George does like Darth Talon,
Yes.
which is why we have more evidence on our side.
Yeah, but definitely not Darth, even if she is
Okay,
Talon.
fine.
Also,
fine.
and Darth is just a self-proclaimed title.
I accept that.
And
I
Maul-
accept that edit because that would mean it's a much more likely version of them bringing her back around so that she's not exactly the same character as before.
She's not Darth.
Exactly. Not exactly
She's
the same
evil
character
Talon.
as before. Just like Grand Admiral Thrawn is not exactly the same guy.
But
as
he's
he was
Grand
before.
Admiral, though.
He is, but in a
Self-proclaimed.
different time frame. And the way that he interacts with his own Chiss ascendancy is not the same. Because, old school Thrawn was kind of an outcast.
Yes.
So
Well, in the new version, he still is too.
Not quite as much.
But there's an underlying theme to it that he's doing it for the greater Chiss, which allow him to do it, because that was the whole reason he went to do it. But the rest of the Chiss still hate him because they think he is an outcast.
Yeah. All right, Nathan.
All right,
Go ahead
so
and make your case
as you mentioned, Darth is kind of a self-proclaimed title, except it's not because it's given by the Sith Master. But more importantly, Maul himself has called himself formerly Darth, so he definitely doesn't use the name.
He's
So he would
essentially
definitely not.
anti-Sith.
Yeah, he's anti-Sith. He would not bestow that title upon his apprentice, even if she becomes his apprentice. Which I'm not 100% sure that she will. I think the major conflict will be will she, won't she, and eventually she won't, and he'll be like, oh, well, okay, but then death. But
More younglings.
Yes, Youngling Slayer
yes.
9000.
but also Darth Talon has a story, and that story is set many, many years prior to this. And I recognize that they moved Grand Admiral Thrawn, but only sort of, because Grand Admiral Thrawn always was a Grand Admiral during the Empire. And it's more that we're getting the story of who he was during the time that we didn't know who he was before. This, if she is Talon, that's taking a character from a completely different time frame and just dropping her into this era. Now, could she have some inspiration from Darth Talon? Maybe, but I really don't see her suddenly becoming a red and black, scantily clad Twi'lek.
Yeah, well, I mean, she doesn't necessarily have to look exactly the same as the old school Darth Talon did. Yeah, I could accept that.
Hey, if they can change the color of lightsabers, you could change the color of your skin by being.
So I don't think she's going to look like Darth Talon. I don't think she's going to be named Darth Talon. I don't think she's going to have Darth Talon's story. So I think that just makes her not Darth Talon.
No, it makes her a dark side Twi'lek. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, if Dark Side Twi'lek is enough for her to be
She'd
Darth
be Darth
Talon,
Nola.
it's possible that she'll become that.
He said it's possible. I'm calling this a win. All
I
right.
told you we'd win a little
All
bit.
right. Okay. So now,
little bit.
question number 5, Peanut Gallery. What do you got?
Anything.
How do you feel about a Padawan and a Jedi Master surviving?
Oh, yeah. So we talked a little bit about how Palpatine needs to ask for his money back on Order 66 because the Jedi, the galaxy is lousy with Jedi still at this point in time. I mean, we've already had it, right? With Kanan Jarrus and Ezra. Although you could make the case Ezra was not a Jedi Padawan during the time that Order 66 was executed.
But
Ahsoka was not a Padawan anymore, but she lived through it.
But she would have been classified because otherwise, why would the clones have attacked her in season 7?
So, but also her master didn't exactly die, but he also didn't exactly survive.
Although in Kenobi we see another Jedi that has survived.
Quinlan Vos?
Yeah, well, Quinlan Vos has survived. But I meant the guy that was in the little bar when the Grand Inquisitor
You also
showed up.
see one in Tales of an Empire.
Yes, and I believe we see another one in Tales of...
Well, and then we obviously know...
Tales of the Underworld.
But I think this is the first case of a Master Padawan pair
Combo. Yeah.
surviving as a Master Padawan pair.
Because,
not that they became one later like Kanan.
Right, because what's his name in Shin? Because Shin's newer. She's obviously wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
Balin, Balin's Skull.
And Bears and the other Inquisitor.
Yeah, they'll become all the Inquisitors, yes.
But Barris's master did not survive.
Yeah.
In fact, she got
No, actually, she did.
very dead.
She did survive, but
no,
well,
she did
she
not.
survived, but she didn't die. She didn't die during Order 66. Because they talk about that in Rebels.
So
They do talk about that in Rebels. They use her body as a lure for Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So she was not only died, she was very, very dead. Like she's the most dead.
Yeah. Umadali?
Yes. Yeah.
Undali.
Undali. Okay.
Yeah. Luminara.
Luminara Undali.
Luminara.
Yes.
Yeah, she died very early, if not within Order 66.
Now-
Yeah, so the broadest answer to your question there, voice from beyond, is that we think it's weird that a master and a Padawan survived together. They didn't even get split up. Like, it's not like they're hiding on two different planets. They're together.
And Barriss also was no longer a Padawan by the time Order 66 happened.
And we got Grogu and Ahmed Best's character.
Keller and Beck.
Yeah, but Grogu wasn't a Padawan yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's where this would make sense based off the timeline that Darth Talon is, or Davok or Davani or whatever. She'd be super young at that time, though. So she would have been a youngling. You know, how did Master Devek, Lizard Man?
Ravi.
Kavi.
What's his name?
Devek.
Iku.
Anyways, those guys, well, they're figuring it out.
Bears.
Iko Dio
Ventress had
Daki.
somebody with her too.
Yes, Ventress also had somebody with her, but we can make the case easily that Ventress was definitely not a Jedi.
Yeah, but her
master
friend
or
was. I
Padawan.
don't remember his name.
Well, there's a young boy.
Oh, his name is Quinlan Voss.
Yeah, and Quinlan
he's about
Voss.
to.
Well, yeah, Quinlan Voss. Like I said, because we know that.
But he's also a really weird exception because
yes.
Well, he's also dark.
because he died and also came back.
Yes.
He's weird.
And like I said, he's been dark side and light side.
He has been
he is
both.
a
Yeah.
very much.
You could also get the case that Shock T survived too, but
Well, she
Shakti
died a lot.
Shakti has been killed
Three times.
three times,
Three or four?
none of which were official.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So you can make the case that she's dead and alive. She's
Schrodinger's Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because she died in
Don't look in the box. Do not turn the lightsaber on. Do not turn the lightsaber off.
she died in the Tarkovsky
yeah.
Clone Wars.
in the
Tarkovsky.
game.
In the video game.
She died in the video game. She died in
A deleted scene.
a
Grievous
deleted
scene,
scene of yeah.
And I'm almost positive she may have died in a comic book.
I think you're right. I feel like she's died 4 times, and
I might
yet
be wrong
none
about-
of them are
I
canon.
might be wrong about the comic book. If any of our listeners out there have one more death of Shakti, feel free to email us at whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com or post it in our Facebook group that Derek runs over on Facebook, What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. Okay, well, I think that was
Those 5 questions.
So
that was
how-
5 questions.
Well, I do want to know, how do we think a master and a Padawan survive together?
I think that Master Ravi, whatever his name is really good at using the Force to hide. I think he's an awesome, like, his thing is that he can cloak them in the Force and make them
He's a chameleon.
Yes.
Oh, he is. Okay.
He's good at obscuring them within the Force. So that's going to be one of his. You know how we like to have here in the Disney era, especially, and Dave Filoni loves to do this. People have certain gifts in the Force where, like Ezra's really good at a certain type of Force power, and Rey is really good at a certain type of Force power, and Kaden's really good at certain types of Force power. Some people are good at Force speed. Some people are good at Force telepathy. Some people are good at using the Force to talk to animals. Some people are good at using the Force to interact with technology, and so on and so forth.
Going all the way back to non-canon sources now, in I, Jedi, Corran Horn could not do telekinesis,
Right.
Except under very rare circumstances, but was great at making people think they saw things.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. Her master, Darth Talon's master, is good at obscuring
Illusion.
them.
So forget her becoming Darth Talon. This is the new telling of Corran Horn. Doesn't use much. Well, he did use telekinesis on the bridge. Never mind.
Yeah.
And he's human, and none of these are human.
Right.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if we're changing things, let's go big.
Well, now you're going really extreme. At least we were staying with Twi'lek.
Yeah.
So
That's
at least the
the
same species.
Listen, all
That's
we
the
need-
only real connection she
all we need
has.
to know, Darth Maul's also interested in her.
Darth Maul, and she's a Force user,
and she can use
former
a lightsaber.
Jedi or Padawan or whatever.
Listen, all our girl really needs is to get some body paint and get some tattoos. Boom. What we're saying is she's a millennial Jedi. Is what I'm saying.
She might get a nose ring pierced. Who knows?
So moving on.
Okay, so that's it for the 5 questions. So to wrap up this episode of the show,
Hold on.
We've got a
Voice.
producer breaking in.
second
From
voice
beyond here. I'm going to break the format a little bit. Ask question number 6.
Execute question 6.
Execute question 6. Okay, so as a casual Star Wars fan, that's what I am. I know the movies, seen a little bit of the Clone Wars, Seen a little bit of the Ahsoka stuff. Loved the Mandalorian. Loved the Book of Boba. Was that
Boba Fett, yeah.
Loved that. So when we're coming into Maul and we're talking about Maul, last time I remember Maul, I saw him at the end of Han Solo. The movie, right? Solo movie.
Yeah.
So where is that compared to where we are now in the show?
That's an excellent question. We've been trying to debate that a bit. Is this right before we see him in Solo? Or is this the story in the cartoon here of how he goes from guy who was an outcast and almost defeated...
Lost Mandalore.
Lost the control of the planet Mandalore and then rises back up through the ranks to become the dude in charge of Crimson Dawn that we see at the end of Solo.
So through these episodes, we will more than likely either get context clues or learn about that, right?
Yeah.
We're hoping.
Yeah. So okay.
Fingers crossed.
So again, casual fan thinking about Darth Maul before that. He's got the old robot legs now, right?
He does.
Right, and everything. So in Star Wars, a fall doesn't mean you die.
Right.
That
Like
is
a
correct.
tremendous fall. Like I can think of even multiple instances of that. With that in mind, bonus content for those of you who pay Scott and Derek and Nathan lots of money to listen to their podcast.
Yeah. I wish we were getting paid.
Who's that?
We get paid. There's lots of money coming in. So let me ask you this. So is Mace Windu alive?
I was going
'Cause
to
I mean,
say,
I know
there's-
you may have discussed this
He's
before, but he
Snoke.
fell out a window, right?
Yeah.
And we never seen him hit the ground.
Right.
His name is Windu.
Okay,
He went out
okay.
the window.
Okay, I like Mace Windu. Okay,
The Mace Windu.
Break window.
By the way, Nathan did make a Star Trek reference in one of his
That
quotes
is true.
there of Garrick, one of my favorite characters. So I just want you to know that there are Star Trek references within
Most
this Star
of our
Wars
fans
show.
are multi.
Yes,
talk a little
multi
Who, we
fandom
talk a
here.
little
So,
Us
Stargate.
making a Star Trek
but let's go
reference,
back
no way.
to who I affectionately call Mace Windu. Do we think he's dead?
George Lucas, not a very subtle. Another example of that, just basically told us how he was going to die.
Yeah. However, Samuel L. Jackson is such a famous actor and just a tour de force when it comes to Hollywood. I actually think that he could convince Disney to bring Mace back. At
Nick Fury.
He already works for Disney in various other projects, and I'm pretty sure now that Disney has a new president with Mr. D'Amato that I could see Jackson convincing him to bring Mace Windu back. If not all the way into the sequel era, because that would be a little too far for him to be that old, he could show up during the Mandalorian time frame, I believe. So I would not be surprised. And of course, he could just come back with, cybernetic limbs. That's what they did for.
Or he could be not the real Mace Windu. He could be a clone.
He could be a clone.
He could be, when we've talked about this, he could be in the Heir to the Empire. He could be the Master Sifo-Dyas that we've talked about.
That's right. Because we need a replacement.
Yes, we need a replacement. So
Replacement.
you don't get the one that fell out.
Yeah.
You would get the clone
So
version.
we won't have a Jorah Sabath, but we could have him as Sifo-Dyas.
Yeah. Now, and Samuel L. Jackson is on record as saying he wants
he's
Mace
been asking
Windu to come back. Yeah,
Wow, I think it's a great
And he'd
character.
be awesome as a villain like he plays before in many
Yes.
things.
And he has made the exact point that you did that, hey, all there are people, hey, Luke Skywalker fell down a ventilation shaft. For goodness sakes, in the original movie, a whole bunch of characters
Bob
fell
fell
down
down.
a garbage
Maybe
chute,
Yeah.
and we're
Energy
fine.
Flied and did everything.
Yeah. Great falls in Star Wars, especially when you're a Jedi, don't equal
Well,
dead.
we know lightsaber stabs in the middle too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually maintain that
one
one of the main reasons we saw the planet get consumed and destroyed in The Force Awakens is so that people would definitively know Han Solo's not coming back from that fall. Because, he fell, and then the whole planet got destroyed. So that's pretty definitive. Nope, Han is done.
And yet I've still seen people argue, well, maybe he got to the Millennium Falcon and hit on it. It's like,
Well, we know in the third movie he's a Force ghost vision to Ben
Right,
Solo
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So we know for
He
sure
is
he's
dead.
dead at this point. But yes.
Yeah.
But again, they can always bring people back with clones.
Totally.
That's true.
Excellent question. All right, before we wrap up this episode of the podcast, let's talk about some predictions for the upcoming episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. Nathan, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, clearly, I think that Devon is going to turn into Darth Talon. No.
Yes!
No. That's
High
not,
five! We
that's
win!
not going to happen at all. I think she's going to have a lot of angst as to whether,
Teenage angst?
This Maul guy is making a lot of sense because, frankly, he does.
Yeah.
Oftentimes make a lot of sense. This is why Ezra. Ooh. Speaking of Star Trek references, Ezra.
Another one of my favorite characters on the Star Trek. Yeah.
This is why Ezra had such a hard time with it, because Darth Maul, formerly Darth, makes a lot of sense. So I think she's going to have a lot of back and forth, and she's going to have basically the angels. She's going to have her master on one side
and then her evil demons.
the devil Maul on the other side, trying to sway her. I think eventually she will do the right thing, but maybe after doing something wrong. And as we all know in Star Wars, redemption equals death.
Yep. Derek, predictions for upcoming episodes?
So my main prediction for this, like we said, obviously I'm hoping what it is we'll get Maul getting into Crimson Dawn, right? That'll be the big thing for this. But I'm my offshoot prediction. I just had it and I just forgot it. So, but my main one, as I'm trying to recollect my thought here for a minute, would be
All right, I'm going to go.
Yeah, go ahead. While I think.
I predict that we will see Inquisitors show up soon, and they're going to throw down with Maul in some epic lightsaber duels. Because one, we've seen a little bit of that in the preview trailers, and two, you don't have Maul show up to use his lightsaber against a bunch of people who don't use lightsabers as their primary weapons. That's a huge waste for arguably one of the best and coolest looking duelists throughout all of Star Wars history. In fact, there was that stuff when the sequel trilogy came out. Samuel L. Jackson, once again, was on various TV shows and radio shows and interview scenes where they were like, "What do you think of the new Star Wars movies?" And he's all, "I think these children need to go to lightsaber school," because he was talking about how bad they were at using their lightsabers. And if you compare them to the prequels where Mace Windu and Darth Maul were doing their most famous lightsaber work, Rey, Finn, even Kylo Ren, a bunch of garbage when it comes to the lightsaber and blade work and techniques. So you're not going to have a show called Maul Shadow Lord and show him with his big honking red crescent lightsaber, and then he doesn't use it against somebody else in some cool duel. I don't know that he'll necessarily have a duel with Master Ravi. He might. And apologies, I know I'm saying that guy's name wrong, but anyways, but he's definitely going to use it to fight some Inquisitors.
Okay, I remember what it was.
Awesome.
Okay, so the idea of Fish Guy, right?
Yeah.
That's and then who's he supposed to be helping him, and the other guy that betrayed him, because they killed the one guy already in episode 1, and the Fish Guy's helping him find whoever the other crime lord,
the crime lords from the Pikes.
Yeah, the Pike guy, right, or whatever. So he obviously hasn't killed him yet, right? Because that's still that. So and what did he say when he said, "Well, you'll let me be free," right? And Maul said, "Of course, right?"
Right.
But what didn't he say he would let him do? He would let him be free, but he didn't say he'd let him live.
Right.
So he'll let him free, and then he'll kill him.
Remember that
Luti Vario.
Yes,
Vario.
his name. Vario.
Remember that part where I said I'd kill you last? Yeah, man, you said that. You said you'd kill me last. I lied.
So anyways, that'll be my prediction, that Fish Guy will help him kill Navarro, and then he'll let him free, but then he'll kill him at the same time, because he says, "I didn't say I'd let you live."
Indeed. All right, well, if any of that happens, you can be sure that we will discuss it ad nauseum on an upcoming episode of What a Piece of Junk. But until then, we want to thank you all for joining us. Big thanks to our friend Ryan for letting us use this awesome studio. Woo! Don't hold your breath that we'll do this anytime again soon, but maybe someday.
It's a long trip to do this.
Come back anytime.
Maybe someday. But until then, please always remember to respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.
Kenobi.